Susan has been a premier promoter of partnerships and a real ingredient in the success of Partners Outdoors program for years and years and years. And she was also picked by the action team to do the presentation. Now, I'm not sure what she did wrong to try to be forced to do this, but anyway, let's hear from Susan. Susan will be reporting on the recommendations of the Making Great Outdoors Month a Vehicle for Action. Susan.
Okay, and my co-presenters, even though they're not standing up here with me, are Debbie and Michelle. Where's Michelle? Anyway, it's back there. Hi. And I have to tell you that I'm presenting, but I didn't put together the presentation, so it's going to be a little bit of a surprise for both of us. All of us. So anyway, I was thinking, as we're talking about Great Outdoors Month, and one thing that we didn't get a whole lot of time for this meeting is those Pooh Bear moments. And I was thinking with Derek, I'm like, man, I am craving a Pooh Bear moment right about now because we can sure use some more time to ponder what we're doing. So our charge was to look at Great Outdoors Month. And what we did with our group in short order as we designed kind of how we were thinking about this was we talked about, and we built this off of the conversation that we had just prior to the breakouts. We had a lot of discussion about Great Outdoors Month, what does success look like, who's our audience, how do we coordinate, and what commitment do we have to this wonderful month of June. And so how we started our conversations is we said, okay, team, everybody in this room, we have just had this most amazing month of June. And so what does victory look like? What's the big victory that we saw? And so we started out thinking about July 1st, 2011. And so let's look back at June 2011. So we had some conversations about that. Then we talked about barriers and challenges. We talked about our commitment to it. We looked at short term, what can we do in 2011. I feel really loud here. Am I really loud? Really loud. And then we looked at long term and beyond. And so let's talk about victories. And this is what, so we're fast forwarding now into July. And we know that we had a lot of really special days in June. And that the field staff, if you're from the government, your field staff, like where the rubber hits the road, so where the rubber hits the road, we were totally bought in, man. We were totally psyched. We were doing all kinds of stuff, but we also had that top-down support. We had partnerships out the wazoo. I mean, everybody was at the table. We were all really excited. We did some great stuff June 2011. People from the health community, the education community, we were working really hard together. And we walked away from there saying, we can't wait to do it again, and I think we're going to start planning on July 1st. We had champions to share, champions kids that had gotten connected, that were experiencing this. They were experiencing, they wanted to know what they could do next, and they became our champions, our spokespeople, and they were talking to their friends at school. The mommy bloggers were going crazy and sharing information, and we really hit our target audience. We discovered that we needed we needed to get downtown, and we found the people that could help us reach those downtown communities and those audiences, and they were there with us, and our events were like the most diverse community events that we had experienced ever. So, and then we were sharing experiences after the fact. We had strong community engagement, and people were tweeting about it, they were Facebooking about it, they were on YouTube and everything, so they were doing everything, and we had lots of cameras. So those were our victories this last year. But our challenges, then as we started to talk about our challenges, so now we draw back to here we are a few months out, and we're saying, what are our challenges? you know, these are things where we wanted to be, but all of a sudden our capacity is now just out. Did I just blow it out? I'm sorry. Oh, we're back again. Okay. Don't want to hurt anybody's ears though. So we have a lot of sense at the level where we are reaching our communities most. We don't have the capacity to do the job we need to do to reach our partners and to get this done. So this came up as a barrier over and over again. We felt like one of our barriers was, you know, we don't have a really strong unified message. It's Great Outdoors Month, but what's the message that we can all, you know, hang our hat on and we can share with our communities across the board? There was a sense out of our groups that it wasn't clear that we had a clearly identified benefit that we could message them about what the benefits were of Great Outdoors Month. So this was something that the people that came around the table were expressing to us, that we needed to be able to identify a benefit in order to get the support, so we could build capacity to do this at the ground level. Lack of it. Lack of agency participation. There was some sense that agency folks around at different levels of the agency didn't even know it was Great Outdoors Month, so how could they possibly participate? We have no idea that this is going on. And so there was lack of participation. There's a barrier, is lack of participation because lack of knowledge, perhaps. And then there's money, you know, where if this is an initiative, if this is something we're going to do, you got to put your money where your mouth is and say, let's do it. It doesn't necessarily have to take a lot of money, but give us the support that we need to do at the very ground level to do this. There was a lot of commentary about, okay, we've talked about let's move, we're talking about get outdoors, we're talking about America's great outdoors. What are the relationships between those things, and how do we leverage that, all those different initiatives, so they don't feel like 3 separate initiatives and we deal with initiative fatigue. So how do we leverage those and make the most out of all those and find those connections, relationships, and understand those better? We talk about challenges of, this runs the gamut, transportation. And that gets to a very basic on the ground level. When do we start addressing the very barriers to kids and people for getting connected outdoors? It's transportation, it's language, it's awareness, it's education, it's all of those kinds of things. And then balancing our agency goals, our individual agency goals with Great Outdoors Month activities. GOM, that's a good acronym. GOM. So how do we balance our agency goals and what we need to accomplish as an agency with those activities? And we talked a lot about, what are we measured for? What are our performance evaluations? What's the work plan? What are those things that we're counting? Are we measuring outputs or outcomes? And oftentimes we don't do what's not in our performance and our work plan, and all of a sudden we've got these great opportunities, and so it's hard to kind of balance out what we do. And then there was the challenge of lack of community support. These are things we heard, lack of community support. And then the question of, well, why June? Because everybody, and I think we've been talking about this for a while, it's like June is, we talk about it as a kickoff for summer. Some places it's bloody hot then. Other places, you can't possibly get outdoors because you may have snow and it may be really uncomfortable. Maybe the rainy season, it's mud season, it's not a good time to get outdoors. So, although every day is a good day to get outdoors. But anyway, so why June came up? Commitments. So then we started talking about, so are we committed to this? And what are our commitments? And let's talk about commitments. Anyway, so we talked about setting goals, aiming high, and we gotta set goals. And you gotta understand that sometimes you set goals and you gotta recognize you may not reach it, but you gotta set a goal. And I told one of the groups earlier that my daughter set a goal for selling 750 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. She's 7. And I said, are you serious? And she said, Mommy, it's a goal. you have to have goals. And if you don't reach it, then I'll be okay. If I don't make it, I'll be okay, but you gotta have goals. So we need to set some goals. We need to bring some clarity to the field. We need to work on opportunities to co-brand and to think about how we reposition and some of the stuff that we're doing and think about co-branding opportunities. Because we're all doing stuff to get people outdoors and connected. That's what we do. We're outdoor people. And so how do we think about repositioning and co-branding some of the stuff we do? We don't have to reinvent stuff. We don't have to recreate stuff. But let's think about, how we find alignment and connect things. There's opportunities to partner with some really well-oiled machines. I mean, there's some things that are happening out there that are awesome. I think Gilbert with the our marina friend, partnering and doing some, they did some stuff in August, they moved it to June, they worked with some bands, they're doing stuff to support American Cancer Society, and so they're doing some amazing things. We've got some folks in Salt Lake City that just, with National Get Outdoors Day, they partnered with something that had been going on for years, rebranded it, co-branded it. It's a week later than June 11th, but they're bringing awareness, and it's about finding that common message and unity around a common message and branding that sucker. So, let's see. We've got all these proclamations. What are we doing to tell people about them? How are we marketing them? How are we communicating them? And are we tying these proclamations to things like the Children's Bill of Outdoor Rights? I mean, we've got some good examples of those things taking place in California and Colorado, and can we tie the creation of those Bill of Rights to proclamations and make them perhaps a little bit more meaningful and local? There was some question about, at the very field level, proclamations don't mean a whole lot to me from the governor. What means more to me is my leadership proclaiming that this is important, and how do we tie that in? So is there an opportunity to do a little bit better job at marketing those proclamations, getting them earlier, talking about them, and building them into our messaging? And speaking of messaging, consistency of messaging. We're all over the board. And if we're going to focus on Great Outdoors Month, let's focus on some consistent messaging that we can all use, whether it's to go outside and play or whatever. But let's get ourselves behind some consistent messaging and sharing information. We've kind of made a commitment that we all need to share information. And that was one of the things that came out loud and clear earlier. It's like, man, we're all doing stuff. And we don't know what we're doing, and we've got a lot of calendar opportunities. And so if we could all make a commitment to get those calendar opportunities coalesced somewhere so people actually can find it. We talked about one-stop shops. How do we do that? Anyway, I'm going to move on because I don't know what's on this next. Okay. So one of the thoughts was, in terms of bringing all this information together and making it available someplace, do we have, somebody's Googled while we were using their smartphone in a meeting saying, Great Outdoors Month, nobody owns it, we don't think. We think we could secure that URL and make a whole month-long activities. We also talked about, is there an opportunity to find some URL that we could make a common calendar and all commit to getting information and updating that as individual organizations. Again, short term, okay, let's move outdoors, America's Great Outdoors and Great Outdoors Month, and figure out those connections and make that crystal clear to our folks, what that relationship is and how we interact with these different initiatives, so they don't feel like three separate initiatives. We know there's a lot of alignment. We talked about the toolboxes and a lot of this stuff. For example, for Get Outdoors Day, National Get Outdoors Day, there's a wonderful toolbox online that has sample press releases, fact sheets, things like that. But we need to be thinking about building these communication plans to make it really simple for folks to implement at a very local level. We need to make it simple and easy for us to implement, because we're busy people and capacity is an issue.